This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the latest, freshest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am your host, Vito Geronimo Chirco, alongside nobody, as John Charles Macaron has the week off. Every single week, seemingly. Went to South Carolina for a trip with his lovely wife, Andrea, and his two daughters, and had a great time. And you know what? He deserved it. I'll tell you that much, guys. John actually did deserve to go on vacation. I think I do as well, but anyways, that's a topic for another day, as this is Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. Tigers, they look like they're playoff bound, guys. Not so fast, my friend. So I don't want to get ahead of myself and too excited, but hey, last couple of games against the Houston Astros in this three-game set in Houston at Minute Maid Park have been positive results for the Tigers. 2 wins through 2 games going into the series finale on Wednesday at Houston, and you have Michael Fulmer towing the bump against Lance McCullers Jr. Now, Fulmer has been really good out of the pen thus far this season too, guys. And really, I would like to see him continue in the bullpen for, at least halfway through the season, let's say. Yet, because of the injury to Julio Teheran, it has forced the hand of A.J. Hinch to put the arm of Michael Fulmer back into the Tigers' starting rotation. Fulmer, remember, was a guy last year coming back from Tommy John surgery and wasn't good, wasn't nearly effective enough. And because of that, in spring, when he did look decent at times, A.J. Hinch made the decision to put the right-hander into the bullpen to start off the campaign. And it was a positive decision from Hinch. As you look at Fulmer's numbers thus far out of the pen, an ERA south of 3. So a guy that has been mighty effective thus far coming out of the pen, and a guy that can give you an inning or 2 at a time, and because of his starting pitching experience. So he can stretch it out of the pen, be a middle innings guy, but also a long reliever. And maybe one day, become that high leverage guy out of the pen, late in games in close situations, or hey, in the middle of the game in a close situation. So as we know already, too, with analytics nowadays, that high leverage arm out of the pen can be utilized at any point in the game. It might be the 5th inning. It might be in the 6th inning, or it could be in the 8th inning, could be in the 9th inning. And that's where Fulmer, it looks like, was, able to succeed at a high level. And maybe that's where he can be best deployed moving forward, too, as a Tiger pitcher. And I say that because not only the numbers, but when you look at his stuff out of the pen, he was throwing with more zip on his fastball, more velocity, consistently touching 95, 96 miles per hour on the radar gun, guys. So because of that note, sure, it looks like he would have been more effective moving forward out of the pen than in the Tigers starting rotation, because you look at him last year and even a couple of years back before the Tommy John operation when his numbers started to dip, and you could see where the velocity wasn't always there from fastball to fastball. That started to dip for Michael Fulmer. And now coming back from Tommy John, going through last year, and just really, being on the run, having to go through major league hitters because of the fact that there wasn't minor league baseball a year ago with the COVID-19 abbreviated campaign. So because of that, Fulmer was forced to rehab and to recover from Tommy John at the major league level. And that was very tough for the right-hander. It wasn't easy. And you look at his numbers, look at his ERA. It was darn bad. But once again, you give him the benefit of the doubt that, hey, he didn't have the time to rehab in the minors, to go through some starts at AAA Toledo, to, refine his skills, to just fine-tune his pitching arsenal. And because of that, once again, he was forced against major league lineups, and he wasn't good a year ago. So far, though, in 2021, guys, he's been darn good. Out of the Tigers' pen up until now, having to start on Wednesday in the series finale against A.J. Hinch's former club in the Houston Astros, who, remember, fired him 2 years ago now, 2 off seasons ago, because of the cheating scandal that ensued with the Houston Astros at the forefront of it. It cost Hinch his job in Houston and Alex Cora his job in Boston. Cora now back in Beantown after a year off from managing the Bo Sox. But anyways, back to the Detroit Tigers. Currently, once again, standing at 5-6 on a 2-game winning streak after getting swept over the weekend by the Cleveland Indians. And in that series, I want to bring up now these young players for the Tigers and look at what they have done up to this point in the campaign. And the left-hander, Tarik Skubal, was not good over the weekend against the Tribe. In so many words, he got rocked. And you look at his numbers in that start, April 10th, Tigers lost 11-3. He only went 4 innings, allowed 5 hits, 6 runs, 6 earned runs, and 3 home runs allowed in that outing for himself as well. It was not an effective start out of the left-hander. And obviously, when you see a start like that, it is a bit of a cause for concern out of a youngster like Skubal, who looked decent enough to go 5 1/3 innings in his first outing of the year, which also came against the Tribe on April 4th. And I won't say he was mighty effective in that, but was more often than not getting batters out in that one. Once again, going 5 1/3, allowing 4 hits, 2 earned runs, striking out 4 batters, and allowing no homers in that outing. His ERA after that game was 3.38 after his second outing against the Tribe and of the season, now north of 7 at 7.71. So his earned run average stinks right now, almost at 8, but it was, remember, guys, only his second start of the season too. And here's a guy that, remember, has not made many starts in his career up to this point either. He went 1-5 with a 6.10 ERA last year, but showcased some positive signs at times a year ago as well. A guy that was first in the majors a year ago. So with all that being said, not many starts under his belt at this point. Well, you got to give him some time to really develop his craft and all of his pitches and his pitching arsenal. This is a guy in Skubal that was dominant a couple of years back at the Double-A level, at Double-A Erie. So we know he has some good stuff. We know he can make batters miss, and maybe even better than Casey Mize, who I want to transition to now, who looked mighty darn effective in his second outing of the season, which came against the Houston Astros. And he threw 7 innings in that game. A huge positive for a guy that really wasn't able to get out of the 5th in many of his starts a year ago, and actually only pitched 4 innings in his first outing of the year against the Twins on April 6th, a start in which he was pretty effective, but only threw 4 innings once again, too. Now, this past outing, his most recent one, this week against the Houston Astros, he threw 7 once again, allowed 4 hits only. No earned runs as well, guys. 5 strikeouts in that outing, too, bringing his season ERA down to below 1. Yes, below 1 to 0.82. So, the positive for me with Mize is that he was locating his pitches superbly, keeping his pitches low, painting the corner with this fastball, bringing that zip, that velocity with this fastball. And obviously the change of speed as well was key for Casey Mize in his outing, where he could hit 95, 96, maybe 97, okay? But also then drop it down to in the 80s and really confuse batters, with that being said. So it was a big-time positive out of Casey Mize, who in recent outings, now, not only his one before that this year, but last season when he first came onto the scene, we saw him struggle to get out of the 4th, get out of the 5th. And that's because he was throwing way too many darn pitches to each batter, getting his pitch count up and getting himself into trouble subsequently, forcing himself to come out of the games early on and much earlier than the Tigers would have liked a season ago. And in his first outing, once again, where he showcased some signs of brilliance, but also a reason for why he was getting into these bad counts and counts more advantageous for hitters is because of the fact that when he got to 2 strikes on these batters, got to 0-2, to a count in which he was working in his favor, well, He didn't have a knockout punch. He wasn't striking out these batters. They were fouling off pitches and then just making him work more and more subsequently and getting him into horrible situations where the hitters were reversing the course and putting themselves in favorable situations, even after Mize would go up 0-2 or 1-2 on batters. And that was a big cause for concern for me a year ago in watching Mize from start to start. And all eyes were on the Mize, the prize of the Tigers, the at one point number one prospect in the Tigers farm system. Now that status belongs to Spencer Torkelson, who, don't get me started on him, a guy I still love and want to see develop now at the Tigers' alternate spring training campsite once minor league ball starts, because he wasn't good in spring ball. Yet, he's young. In his early 20s. He's got to develop still, guys. And once he does, he could be up here at the big league level come 2022. Mize is ready to go, though, right now. And back to him and looking at his productivity thus far this season, once again, more good than bad. He has been a positive, and even more positive than I had thought based on his spring training results when he wasn't mighty darn effective start in, start out. So because of that, I think a lot of people had cause for concern with Mize going into the start of the regular season this year. And kind of more people, at least inferred, than I think thought that, that he could be good. They inferred that he wasn't going to be good to start off this year. At least once again, inferred it, if not directly stated, that they had cause for concern with him and had some negative thoughts about Mize going into the start of this season. And once again, it was based on his results in spring, but also and largely last year when he first came onto the major league scene and struggled. And not only at times, but more often than not, outside of a few glimpses, once again, of brilliance that came most often against the White Sox. In his two outings against the Chicago White Sox, who won the division, had this great year last year on the south side of Chicago. We're a playoff team. We're a first-round playoff exit, though, but a mighty talented squad with great hitters galore from top to bottom in that starting lineup. And Mize went through them and showcased some signs of brilliance against the White Sox. Only threw 4 innings about in each start, but those were two of, and I think his two best outings in 2020. So that showcased something, I think, to the masses, at least to me individually, to say, hey, this guy has something. He has something to work with, okay? It wasn't all negative last year. Sure, his ERA was horrible. He wasn't sharp enough, and especially with his command, was getting himself once again in bad counts for himself that were working in favor of the hitters instead of himself. Yet on a large scale, he was still young and, going through some growing pains last year. He wasn't going to be sharp, start in, start out. So all of us had to take that into account and consider the fact that this guy could grow into a bona fide frontline arm this season, at least by, let's say, mid-season this year, or by the end of this year. So we all had to take a seat back, right? Just take a breath of air, right? And say to ourselves that, hey, this guy is still developing. He's still a young dude. He's going to go through some rough patches. And he definitely did last season. So, it was fine to have a little bit of cause for concern. But on a large scale, because he is still so darn young, because of his, bona fide top prospect status going into his professional baseball career, we had to, I think, take, a seat. Just relax for a minute. And remember at the end of the day that this guy is supposed to be good. And not everybody, right when they reach the majors, is a bona fide frontline starting arm. Some go through more rough patches than others. And maybe that was the case for Casey Mize coming onto the scene last season. But once again, through 2 outings in 2021, it is fair to not only infer, but to directly state that this guy has been mighty darn good and what the doctor ordered. So, we have looked at Tarik Skubal, who has struggled. Now, Mize, who has been good largely through his 2 outings to start off the 2021 season. Now we go to a Rule 5 draft pick of the Tigers and the surprise of the season, the story of the year, in my man, Akil Baddoo. an outfielder with some speed and with a mighty potent bat to start this campaign as well, with 4 home runs now, guys, through 8 games in the 2021 campaign. And this is a guy who really had no expectations for himself. A guy that had never advanced past high A ball with the Tigers' divisional rival Minnesota Twins. And you look at his numbers when he wasn't A-ball with the Twins, and they weren't very good numbers. I mean, in 2018, he hit 243. I mean, this is a guy that just, never really has hit great when he was in the minors in that Twins farm system. And they let him go in the Rule 5 draft. Tigers took it upon themselves to pick this guy, and, to keep him on the team, they had to keep him on their opening day roster, keep him on the 40-man. He made the opening day team, and that surprised some people, even with his torrid spring. I mean, he just tore up the baseball in the spring for the Tigers, and nobody saw that coming. Then he reaches the Major League opening day roster and didn't start right away, was on the bench, and then finally got his chance to shine. And guess what he did? In his first Major League AB, first pitch as a major leaguer that he saw, hits a home run with his mom, Akila, and his dad, John, in attendance. So those two, to watch it all, take it all in, to see their son succeed at the highest level. It was so fun to watch him and to play with that young kid vibe, that young kid mentality where you can tell he is having fun out there. Every single time he suits up to play in a ball game, every single time he hits the ball and gets on base and plays out there in the outfield and makes a play, you can see this guy exude excitement. And it's such a positive vibe that he brings to the Tigers roster, to the Tigers clubhouse, to this Tigers fan base, to be able to root him on and see him succeed up to this point and at such a high level, once again with his numbers being superb, a batting average far above 300, an OPS north of 1,000, 4 home runs through 8 games, and once again hit another one on Tuesday night. This guy has done it all thus far at the major league level, getting on base in every possible way. And he's been so darn exciting to watch as well to start his major league career. And obviously, the fans and pundits alike now are starting to talk about whether or not this guy is for real. Will he sustain his success at the plate at the major league level? And realistically speaking, guys, it is still too small of a sample size to right now vehemently state that, hey, this guy is going to be a bona fide major league starting outfielder now the rest of the way. He might still end up just being a role player, a guy that will never hit this well the rest of his major league career. But I don't want to be Debbie Downer or Doug Downer, perhaps, and try, bringing all these negative narratives now about Akil Baddoo. I don't want to be that guy that, starts talking negatively about this guy that has just shined so mightily at the major league level up to this point, that has been just really a shining star for the Tigers, a reason for excitement. So I don't want to bring down all of your high, okay, everybody out there, all of your highs, okay, and what you've experienced with Baddoo, and dampen anything for you guys. Because right now, he is a reason for excitement for this Tigers ball club. A club that as a team hasn't had a huge amount of success, isn't expected to have a huge amount of success in 2021, is only 5-6 through 11 games, even though, sure, they won their last 2, and it's always fun to talk about a winning streak, but it's only 2 games, and it is a small sample size for the Tigers, and Baddoo once again up to this point. But once again, I don't want to sober you up and bring you down from your high regarding Baddoo. I don't want to bring Baddoo down from his high, because this guy, once again, fans now are clamoring for more and more of him in the Tigers' everyday starting lineup. They want to see this number 60 jersey offered at every single store imaginable that sells baseball and sports jerseys. They want to get Baddoo's number 60 uni at this point. And the Tigers' Twitter handle even tweeted out that I guess they're offering the jersey now at their store online where you can purchase that Baddoo number 6 jersey. And that made a lot of fans nuts on Tuesday night of this week when they saw And whether or not they have a lot of those unis offered right now inside their store or at their store online, that's a topic for another day. There might not be a lot right now for them to sell, and I don't know what that even entails. But still, the point is, people are excited about Akil Baddoo, a guy that is a left-handed bat. So far, has showcased, the ability to slug and to hit the long ball. And once again has brought some excitement to this Tigers Major League roster. And got to remember, too, this Tigers team has struggled to hit the baseball for some of this season already. It is a team that's probably going to struggle with their run production and on a consistent basis, too, for the most part this year. So you need guys that will come up, emerge onto the scene like Baddoo, and drive in runners, hit the long ball. And we saw Nomar Mazara, by the way, hit the long ball, too, a big home run on Tuesday night. So we saw some guys hit the multi-home run ball. Ramos has gone deep now multiple times this season. So you have multiple guys with multiple home runs that have achieved success at a higher level than was expected going into the season, especially Nomar Mazara with his potency so far with the long ball. Obviously, the aforementioned Akil Baddoo with his proneness for the long ball thus far in 2021, too. Wilson Ramos, a guy that was expected to hit and hit the long ball specifically, has done that up to this point, gladly for the Tigers and their fan base. So Ramos, I've liked what he has done. Mazara, sure, to a certain extent, I've liked what he has done. A guy that might be more power or nothing, and same thing with Ramos, but still in a Tigers lineup that is really devoid of power hitters, you got to get it from somebody. And these guys have been the three primary sources thus far. That is Mazara. That is Wilson Ramos. And that is the man, the myth, the legend right now in Akil Baddoo. One bad man who... want to bring up a little story here, too. In the Tigers' first game on Monday night, he thought he hit it deep. He thought it left Minute Maid Park. He was not running hard out of the box, was kind of trotting out of the box and around first base, and only got a double because he thought the ball had left the ballpark. It did not. He was kind of hot dogging it around the bases and only got a double subsequently. And guess what? He was disappointed in himself. And the word on the street is that he apologized to A.J. Hinch for his transgression. And one that you could tell he was mightily dogged by. He felt horrible about the fact that he hot dogged that double out of the box, did not run hard out of the box, even... slapped the hand of Ramon Santiago, the first base coach for the Tigers, thinking he had hit a home run. So Santiago looked like he thought Baddoo had hit a ball that left the ballpark as well. But as he was trotting around first base and finally did notice that the ball didn't leave the ballpark as he was strolling into second, you could tell once again he was disappointed in himself. And that was a positive as well to see out of the 22-year-old, an individual that is younger than me, younger than my White Sox-loving brother who just turned 25, by the way. So we're two youngsters that have been on the airways of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network and Tigers Talk specifically for many, many years actually at this point. Since, Since 2015, I believe at this point is when I came onto the scene, and Dominic was my co-host for the first 5 episodes. We were youngsters, and we're still young lads. Yet a guy younger than us, coming onto the scene and with little to no expectations has emerged hugely, has surprised the masses, has excited the masses. Everybody once again clamoring for his jersey now. And he's a guy that is showcased. Sure, he's not perfect either. Sure, we love the guy, and we love the excitement he plays with, the energy, the vibrance that he plays with. But he's still going to make some mistakes. And he showcased he made a mental mistake on Monday night against Houston. And it was good to see that he knew he had made the mistake. He felt bad for it and was man enough, adult, mature enough, even as a young major leaguer, guys, to apologize to A.J. Hinch that he was dogging it out of the box when he hit that rifle, but that landed off of the wall in the outfield at Minute Maid Park. A ball that he thought left the ballpark, but did not. Yet, once again, he noticed he made the mistake, felt bad about it, and once he got into second, you could see that he was dismayed with himself. He was shaking his head in disappointment and felt bad about that erroneous decision he had made to hot dog it coming out of the box. And I was glad to see that out of the youngster, to see that, I mean, it looks like he's mature beyond his years. And with that maturity, if he keeps hitting, obviously won't keep hitting at this level, but let's say he hits 275 now, 285 the rest of the year, and plays with this level of maturity, brings that kind of speed to the base paths, makes some good plays out there in the outfield. A guy that can play the corner outfield, can cover a ton of ground in center field and even at spacious Comerica Park. Well, with all that being said, A.J. Hinch is going to undoubtedly keep inserting his name into the Tigers' everyday starting lineup. And guess what? The Tigers, their fans are not going to be dismayed with that being the case from the Tigers and Akil Baddoo. And guys, with that being said, it's been exciting for me just to talk about Baddoo and the Tigers at 5-6, winners of 2 in a row going into their Wednesday game with the Houston Astros. Michael Fulmer towing the bump for the first time a starting arm in 2021 against the Astros, going up against Lance McCullers Jr., one of the Houston Astros' better starting arms. Will be a mighty tough task for the Tigers batters and just for the Tigers in general to sweep the mighty tough Houston Astros, who could be a playoff team yet again in 2021. And guys, with all that being said, it's been a pleasure of mine to speak with all of you today for the latest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. Me doing it solo without my man, the myth, the legend, John Charles Macaroon of the DSP network and of so many different entities. He's a psychologist by day, also a writer, editor for SIL Lions, and doing a ton of great stuff. Him and I both, I think, are doing a ton of great stuff for the website, trying to continue to build that website up, build our credibility, build our traffic to the site, and, just really be in the mix with the rest of the media that does cover the Lions on a daily basis. So make sure to check us out on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. Make sure to check out each and every single episode of the DSP Network and all the different podcasts that fall under that DSP Network umbrella, including the flagship show of the DSP Network in Doc and Jock, co-hosted by John Charles Macaroon and also his cuz, Adam Strozinski, the jock, and definitely the jock of those two. But anyways, this has been the latest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am signing off. Good luck to the Tigers the rest of the way this week. And to all of you, take care, stay safe, and stay healthy too. Adios.